greatest sports debate show on the
For the first time since 2016, we have got a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
championship rings. Starring
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. They won the championship ring.
I am loving this feud. Don't you dare shit on this. Don't you dare.
I'm going to shit on the stipulation of it.
Oh my God, the stipulation is fantastic. We are just about 2 hours away from tip-off as the reigning and defending undisputed NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder, who I am repping, by the way. I got this shirt when I went to Paycom Center last year. Take on the Houston Rockets, which means Kevin Durant is going to have to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder, you know, the team where he went up 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors in the 2016 Western Conference Finals, but then promptly blew it. Yeah, he has to watch that team raise a championship banner. You could not write a better script for opening night. It was absolutely the perfect decision by the NBA schedule makers. I give them 100%, like, here's your trophy, here's your flowers. Great job, schedule makers. Yeah, but last night, or no, actually, at the end of Thursday night show, what did I tell you about last night's Buccaneers-Lions game? Do you remember?
You said it was going to be for the number one seed in the NFC.
I did, and I still feel that way. It didn't end up going the way I thought it would. Unfortunately, Tampa Bay wasn't quite as healthy, but no excuses. Detroit was by far the better team. They look like the number one seed in the NFC right now. Even though their secondary, I think all the players in their secondary right now are like backups. I don't think any of their starters are playing right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll see. Everybody's certainly convoluted at the top. Anyways, Josh, thanks for taking the first 3 minutes of the show.
You're welcome, buddy.
Mostly to talk about the NBA. We are live on a Tuesday. This is Championship Rings. I am Brandon Woods. That was the Brandon Ford. You are Under the Max. That was the Sports Room Talk Show. As Josh mentioned, we do have an abbreviated show tonight because of the start of the NBA season. Next week, we will have a ton to talk about throughout the entire realm of the sports world. You will not want to miss that. But you talked about Monday Night Football. I think the most shocking game of the whole weekend might have been Thursday Night Football between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. The reason I say that is because it's not the result. Thursday games been weird this year. Home teams, it feels like, have had the advantage. We've had certainly monumental upsets with the Niners over the Rams, the Giants over my Eagles, and now the Bengals over the Steelers. The reason why I say this was shocking is because Mr. Ungar, as a Cleveland Browns fan, you cannot tell me you did not watch that game Thursday night and think, maybe Joe Flacco wasn't the issue in Cleveland. Maybe our whole issue is
that way. No.
Maybe our whole issue is, wait a minute, did Kevin Stefanski break every single quarterback he's touched, including the guy who used to be a Houston Texan? Because that was my biggest takeaway from Thursday night, because Joe Flacco is now all of a sudden throwing it all over the yard, giving Jamar Chase 16 catches on 20-plus targets, T. Higgins another 6-7 catches on 10-plus targets, and the Bengals offense that could not move the ball 1 ounce for about a month period straight went up and down the field on the vaunted Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which has not been good all season long.
Yeah, And at the end of the game, Bengals fans were chanting, "Thank you, Cleveland." You, of course, you had the Mike Tomlin statement where he was like, "Andrew Berry and the Browns organization must be smarter than I am." You know about that whole thing, right?
Yes, I do, which is exactly my point, because Mike Tomlin knew. He knew what Joe Flacco was going to do to his team Thursday night, because he knows Joe Flacco still somewhat has ability. Joe Flacco could not throw the ball 1 yard down the field when he was here in Cleveland starting the first 4 games of the season. All of a sudden, he's throwing the ball down the field every single chance he gets in Cincinnati.
Yeah, behind the worst offensive line. I'm surprised, he was able to stand upright for most of that game. But for me, this game says more about the Steelers than it does the Bengals, honestly. Flacco could have taken.
Real quick, before you move on, answer this question, because I find this very interesting response from you.
Okay. In order for Flacco to have gotten my support, he had to do 3 things while he was here in Cleveland. Beat the Baltimore Ravens at least once, get the Browns to the playoffs, and win that playoff game, whether it was in the wild card or divisional round. If he did all 3 of those, only then would I have rooted for him. If he had done one of them, and it looks like my screen is freezing. Oh, there we go.
You are here. I got you.
Okay, cool. But that is my answer. If Flacco had beaten the Ravens, gotten the Browns into a playoff game, and won said playoff game, only then would I have rooted for Flacco.
Okay, so why do you think, though, this game says more about Pittsburgh?
Because for what you said in your Brandon tone, the vaunted Pittsburgh defense had been pretty much dominating teams outside of that Jets game.
No, they haven't. They lost to Seattle at home.
That part is true, yes.
They should have lost to New England. They got 5 turnovers, and 2 of them was because Ramondre Stevenson fumbled on the goal line. They led Minnesota back in the game. The only game they really played well against before this game was the Cleveland Browns, because the Browns have the worst offense in football. Well, now they may have the 31st. I think the Dolphins may be worse. We'll get to that.
Yes, the Dolphins, I don't know what to make of them, but I could probably play defense against the Dolphins and, play well. But, the Steelers, for me, they needed to justify being in first place in the AFC North, because there were people saying, are you really the best team in that division, or is it just because Baltimore is banged up, Cincinnati is banged up without Joe Burrow? I feel like their defense has played well, but like you said, there have been games where they did not show up entirely. And I agree, their most complete game was the last week against the Browns, which, unless you're the Dolphins, that's not hard to do. But for me, it was more about the Steelers having to justify themselves playing a second straight division opponent on the road on a short week, So that's why, for me, it says more about the Steelers.
All right, we'll get to that game. We'll get to what everything means in the AFC North in a little bit. Let's talk about a team that you were very high on coming into the season. And they have not looked particularly good in many quarters this season, but they're 4-2. And they scored 33 points in the fourth quarter against Brian Dable, Jackson Dart, and the New York Football Giants to steal that victory when they were down 19-0 to start the fourth quarter. And I don't know if it says more about Denver that they've had these comeback victories. Obviously, the fourth quarter against Philadelphia and then the fourth quarter against the Giants. Or if the Giants just lost that game and Denver maybe 4-2, but you can make a real argument they really could be 1-5 or 0-6 because they nearly lost to Tennessee week 1, and then they nearly lose to the Jets in London as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the Broncos are a confusing team. I still think they can win the division, but those 2 games against Kansas City are going to be crucial because the Chiefs seem to have figured it out offensively. We're not going to get a good test for them when they play Washington on Monday Night Football because Jaden Daniels is not going to be Washington's starting quarterback. It will be Marcus Mariota, most likely. But, the Giants go from winning a big game on Thursday Night Football at home against your Eagles, and we're thinking, okay, maybe they can sneak into a wild card spot, with Washington down, and
Josh, you're completely broken up on my end. You're completely frozen and broken
going
up.
to win that division. Game. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, okay. So Josh is gonna take a breathe here. So sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm gonna say that I disagree with Josh in the fact that he thought that we all thought the Giants could be a wild card team. I never thought that. I thought that the Giants personally were going to be too much competition. They may have been better with Jackson Dart, right? They could win 7-8 games, but they're not better than Seattle. They're not better than the Rams. They're not better than San Francisco. They're not better than Green Bay. They're not better than Detroit. They're not better than Philly. They're not better than Tampa. I'm not sure they're better than Atlanta. And then, Josh, I think, was beginning to talk about the Commanders and the Cowboys, which we'll get to. I think Dallas is the Cincinnati of this year where they're going to score all points. They're not going to play any defense. But the Broncos, if you look really hard, and I know Josh was very high on the Broncos this year. He had them winning the AFC West. I actually had them in 4th place in the AFC West. I missed on the Las Vegas Raiders, but I had Denver at about 7-8 wins. And so you look at this to me, and Denver barely survived week 1. Now, week 1, you can take what it is, right? It's preseason football. It's an extension of the preseason. Teams are trying to get their feet wet. We don't know what to make of other teams. Okay. Then they have a game where they lose on the road. They're down to the Chargers at halftime. They come back, and the Chargers obviously come back. They make that field goal with Dicker in week 3. Week 4, they beat the Bengals with Jake Browning at home. Yippee, they're 2-2 at that point. Week 5, then they score 3 points for the first 3 quarters against my Philadelphia Eagles. Bo Nix has an incredible 4th quarter, led by them going for 2 there. Denver takes all the momentum with them completely. They end up winning the game. What was it, 21-17? They go to London, and I get it. London games are weird. The Jets played their tails on fire. They got a couple turnovers. Denver did not allow a touchdown, but that game still finished 13-12, and the Jets had -10 passing yards, and they were still in position to potentially win that football game. And then you look at the Giant game, and Josh says, by the way, that he's going to try to restart his computer. So you look at the Giant game, and they were completely outclassed in 3 quarters. They were down 19-0. They went for it multiple times on 4th down. Bo Nix was really struggling. And then all of a sudden in the 4th quarter, they come out. Jackson Dart, huge interception late when the Giants were up 10 points. And all the Giants had to do in that 3rd down situation was run the football. Denver only had 1 timeout. You run the football there. You make Denver use their timeout. You punt. And worst case scenario, then even if Denver gets a score with no timeouts left, they have to go for the onside kick. So I know the feeling in Denver because I have family members that live there. I've been out in Denver. I get the pulse of what they're saying in Denver radio is that, yes, this team is 4-2, Bo Nix has not played well all season long. And it feels like the team could be 0-6. And they have a huge game this week in the 425 window. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo will be on the call when it comes to that when they take on the Dallas Cowboys. We can get back to that topic when Josh gets on, but I do want to move on. And I want to pull in a comment here that we have from our friend here on Championship Rings, Grandizer, about the Miami Dolphins. And Grandizer says, Brando and Josh, you want to hear what is crazy? What I heard, if the Jets win a game, the Finns move up to number 1 overall due to strength of schedule. Yeah, that would be correct. Even though the Dolphins beat the Jets, I think they both have the same record by virtue of strength of schedule. Grandizer, I believe you're correct on that. And the Dolphins are broken. And Grandizer, I know you disagreed with me and Josh at the start of the season, but this is what we both predicted. That Tua Tagovailoa is not the answer in Miami. The Dolphins, the great FS1 radio show host Colin Coward, who's been hosting radio for 10 plus years on FS1, did it for a long time, 10 plus years as well on ESPN, has called the Dolphins the speedboat of the NFL. And I agree with him. What that means is in September, when the weather's nice, the leaves haven't dropped yet, nobody knows who they are yet. You've got Tyreek Hill, you've got Jalen Waddle, you got Tua. They can air the ball down the field at will. But when you get into these cold weather games, when you get into rainy games, when you don't have a great offensive line, obviously Tyreek Hill is out, but guess what? There's receivers out all over this league. Mike Evans, cracked clavicle. He's going to miss most of the rest of the season there for Tampa Bay. So you had to be able to adapt. And Tua Tagovailoa is not a big quarterback. And so Grandizer says the whole issue with the Finns is that they don't have an offensive line. And yes, Grandizer, once again, I agree. But the other issue is that Tua Tagovailoa is not a franchise quarterback. And I was against them paying him 2 years ago, whenever that was. I don't think this team fights for Mike McDaniel anymore. And we do have Josh here back in the room on my end. We're going to see if we can get him on board with this. But I think the bigger story with the Dolphins here is this game wasn't even competitive. The Browns do not have a very good offense, and Dylan Gabriel did not have to do anything. I think he had like 116 yards through the air, maybe 20-something-ish yards on the ground. It was all Quinshon Judkins, who I did not think he was going to be a special back. I thought Travion Henderson was the better back when both those running backs came out of Ohio State. Turns out Travion Henderson only got 2 carries last week, and Quinshon Judkins ended up scoring 3 touchdowns. So when you look at that, to me, the Dolphins came out, they weren't prepared. The weather really bothered them. And that's been my main issue with the Dolphins is when it's not clear weather, they can't win football games. When it's even 40 degrees outside, I cannot deliver the throws. And I agree. Well, they have to give them a good offensive line. Their game is all about the run game, play action, get off to good starts. It's very similar to the Browns' offense, except the Browns actually have a very good defense at home. The Browns lean on that defense at home. And Myles Garrett and Mason Graham, the rookie out of Michigan, all those guys coming together, they're able to collapse the pocket and make it very easy for those guys to create turnovers. The Dolphins just did not look like they want to be there. But I think the reason why they have not fired Mike McDaniel yet is because they don't want to fire Mike McDaniel because they want to get the number 1 pick. And they feel like if they fire McDaniel, they could get a interim head coach bump or something like that and win a couple more games. I think the Dolphins, I don't know if they're targeting Arch Manning, which how funny would that be, right? If Arch Manning, who I don't think is a very good quarterback, by the way, I don't think he's a first-round pick. But it would be funny, right? If Arch Manning were to come to Miami and Quinn Ewers is there, which Quinn Ewers is not an NFL quarterback. I don't know what that was late there in that garbage time on Sunday. But the Dolphins are not a good franchise. I mean, the Jets aren't either. The Jets are poorly coached. I don't understand why the Jets are winning this football team. I actually think the Jets defense has talent. I think Garrett Wilson's the top receiver in this league. Justin Fields is obviously not the answer, and I'm not sure about Aaron Glenn. And so I think those two teams in the AFC East are going to be competing with each other for the number one pick, potentially alongside the New Orleans Saints and the Tennessee Titans, obviously, for the number one pick there in the AFC. Okay, let's get to who the MVP is so far for the 2025 NFL season. So going into the year, I think we all kind of thought it could be Josh Allen. It could be Lamar Jackson. It could be Joe Burrow. It could obviously be Patrick Mahomes. My pick was Jordan Love because I thought the Packers were going to ascend. I thought the Packers were going to get the number one seed in the NFC. As I take a look at it right now, in no particular order, which I do think, by the way, Baker Mayfield's stock took a hit last night. As Tampa did lose that game to Detroit, Baker Mayfield did not play very well. They now have 2 losses. I think if Baker had 6, he would be in the prime position. I also don't think his stats-wise, I don't think that, this game really showed he cannot carry a team against a good team. So I think his MVP case did take a hit last night, but I do think he's still somewhat in the run. I think easily right now, Matthew Stafford is in the running and probably should be the front runner. I did not expect the Rams to look like this, especially when you consider Matthew Stafford did not play a preseason game or never took a training camp snap, which is huge because of his back injury. There was questions coming into the season about whether or not the Rams had a quality backup on their roster, about if they had to go with Jimmy Garoppolo to start the year, could they win games? And Matthew Stafford's out here dealing. They went to London against Jacksonville, who's one of the most improved teams in the league this year, especially on offense. And they got to London on Saturday, which is typically a bad decision for NFL teams. You typically want to go to London earlier. That's what the data says. The earlier you get there, the better you are. And Matthew Stafford went in there on a complete business trip, and the Rams took apart the Jaguars. As I already mentioned, Stafford throwing 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I certainly think he has a case. Obviously, Josh Allen will always have a case because he's Josh Allen, but he has not played well the last 2 weeks. He did not play well against New England, and he did not play well against the Falcons. I was shocked at how bad Buffalo came out against the Falcons. Bijan Robinson, an incredible game running the football. I see this comment from Grandizer that says, Mayfield, Stafford, Bijan Robinson. I was not going to say Bijan Robinson. I did not think he had a very good game. With this stat, sure. I mean, has the MVP turned into a quarterback award? Basically, for the most part, yes, it has. I know me and Josh have talked about this a lot.
Look at this! The snare trap! At the top of the rim!
Are we back? Are we back now?
Okay, all I see is a black screen, but I can hear you.
I don't know what's going on. I'm having some type of technical difficulty, so I apologize.
Okay. Was there any particular topic that you wanted to go back to? We're currently on MVP conversation.
Now we can just keep going there.
Okay. So for me, my 3 candidates are Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott.
No.
Absolutely, Dak, with the numbers he's putting up. I think Baker's in the conversation. I think Mahomes is also in the conversation. I think that's your 4 right now.
The only one I really disagree with would be Dak, just because I understand it. He's putting up crazy offensive numbers. Again, I apologize for my camera issues. I don't know what's going on there. But like the Cowboys, their defense is just horrid right now.
But okay, let me make this argument, Josh. The Cowboys this year are better than we all thought. I mean, you picked them to win 4 games. I think I picked them to win 5, and they already have 3. So let's start there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Why would you put Dak Prescott in there, but not Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones certainly is a case. I think the Colts are the 3rd best team in the AFC.
Well, record-wise, they're number one right now.
Yeah, but I think they're the third best team. I don't think they're better than Kansas City when push comes to shove, and I don't think they're better than Buffalo, to be honest with you.
Well, if you're asking me for MVP candidates, Drake May belongs in there because I know neither of us picked the Patriots to win the AFC East, and yet here they are sitting atop the division. So
you have a case, but I don't know if Drake's gonna have the stats come the end of the year. They're sort of under the radar where they're not putting up huge numbers. He's got the touchdown passes, but they're getting a lot of turnovers on defense and running the football and getting a lot of short fields. They're also playing a very easy schedule. So Drake hasn't made to me any wow plays that I've been like, oh my God, I don't know who could make those plays.
You mean some of the plays he made against Buffalo weren't wow plays for you?
The one to Diggs, the stiff arm at the end of the game to get that first down, that's the best play I've seen from him this season. I think he's mostly been in the comfortable pocket, and I think he's not being carried. I think he's making the throws when he has to. But it's not like, oh my God, I like watching Drake May, but it's not, oh my God, I have to watch Drake May yet. Love it.
So for me, MVP candidates, Drake May is for sure in there. I have to put Daniel Jones in there because I know I did not think the Colts were going to be very good this season.
You picked them to be the last team in the AFC, and I said I thought they were going to win 6-7 games, but I also said I could be wrong because I thought Daniel Jones was going to have a good year. Did I think MVP level? No, but I said you look at that team. They had the offensive line. They had the weapons. They had the defense. It was all about the quarterback, and clearly they thought Daniel Jones was an upgrade over Anthony Richardson, and they were right on that, and we were wrong.
Oh, 100%. And we're going to learn a lot about the Colts because they still have road games at Pittsburgh and at Kansas City.
I think we learned a lot about them this weekend. I mean, I liked them to beat the Chargers in a very high-scoring game. I did not expect that game to be over by halftime.
But we're really going to learn a lot about them when they play at Kansas City. Because you want to prove you're a legitimate AFC contender, go beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
I think one of the guys at the top of the list right now is Matthew Stafford. And I was saying earlier, right before you jumped on, I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of concern about Stafford going into the season. His back, he missed all training camp. He did not play a snap in the preseason. There was questions about whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo could lead the Rams. And what Stafford's done this year to me at his age is unbelievable. Throwing 5 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions in London. They get there on Saturday. It's a 24-hour business trip, which usually does not spell well for NFL teams, against a Jaguars team who was 4-2 coming in. I mean, their defense was not great, but they were 4-2 going in. And Stafford and the Rams offense, without Puka Nacua, by the way, absolutely ripped them apart.
You are 100% right. But if you're going to put Matt Stafford in there, I would put Sam Darnold.
I agree. Darnold has been better, and I was a little bit low on Seattle because I did not think Darnold would be good. And Jared Goff, he was good last night. He was not good against Kansas City, and he was not good in week 1. I think all the candidates, including Drake May, of what Josh said earlier, have a better chance this year than Goff personally. I think Darnold has played more consistently, though I will say this. I know many people didn't watch that Seahawks-Texans game last night because it started at 10 o'clock at night. That was an ugly game, and Seattle did win, but Darnold did not play well.
I agree. And I wonder how Seattle fans felt about that game, knowing the Mariners had lost.
Yeah, no kidding.
Especially because they did a watch party at T-Mobile Park, which is right across the street from Lumen Field. But yeah, I have to put Sam Darnold in the discussion for MVP. I have to. Like, you weren't high on the Seahawks. I said they could be a very good team. And yet here they are, right in position to win this division. I would say the NFC West is the best division in the NFL. Like,
I disagree because I think it's the NFC North.
Okay. I mean, I get it with
I think from top to bottom, those 4 teams are better because I don't trust Arizona. I know I had them as a playoff team. They play everybody close, but they can't win the close game. Everybody in the NFC North is 500 or above right now.
Arizona really should have won that game against Green Bay.
Arizona should be 5-2, and they're 2-5.
I can't argue with you on that one, but you know what's interesting though is Kyler has gotten injured, and the Cardinals' offense suddenly looks better without him.
Well, it's part of it is Jacoby Brissett, though. He's also a veteran backup quarterback.
Yes, but still, that to me sends a loud message. The fact that, yes, it's Jacoby Brissett, and yes, he's a veteran, but still, the fact that the Cardinals' offense looks better without Kyler, that is sending a loud message to me.
Speaking of guys that are injured and supposed to be coming back, so Lamar Jackson is supposed to be back. The line in Vegas says he's going to be back because the Ravens are favored by 6.5 at home against the Bears on Sunday. The Ravens are 1-5. However, if they were to defeat the Bears and the Steelers were to lose Sunday night, which we're going to get to next, against Green Bay as Aaron Rodgers goes up against his former team, all of a sudden that AFC North gets a lot tighter. We'll see what Joe Flacco can do. The Bengals have the Jets this week. That's a winnable game and should be a win for them. But I know Baltimore's 1-5, and I think only one team in the AFC North, the way the wild card is set up, is going to get out of it, because I think the AFC West is probably going to have 3 playoff teams again. As I think Josh went off randomly again.
There we go. That's how I want it.
Okay. So I do think Lamar can come back, and I think this will be basically the start of the Ravens season. I expect them now, coming off a bye, to look like the old Ravens. I think it's a bad spot for the Bears, who have struggled against the run this year. I think we're going to know if Baltimore's back based on the way they play, because I think with the way this matchup works out, with the Ravens rushing attack versus the Bears run defense, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry should have a day similar to what Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco did to the Atlanta Falcons run defense in Sunday Night Football.
It does sound like Lamar is going to come back. He's projected to get me like 23 points or so in fantasy. So I'm probably going to start him. But I don't know if I can fully trust that he's fully healthy. I know it's a hamstring, but with how much Lamar likes to run, and I know the Ravens are coming off their bye, but still, the fact that he wasn't there for the Texans game or the Rams game, now you're coming off a bye, that does have me a little bit nervous.
Well, that was always the plan when he got injured. This was always the anticipated date that he would return. So I'm looking at it like he's on schedule. And I understand what you're saying on hamstring injuries, right? They're very nerve-wracking. They can pop up at any time. We really don't know. And Lamar has been injury-prone for his career. But I just think Lamar is going to gut it out. And I think you're going to see a vintage Ravens performance. I think the defense is starting to get some pieces back. They started to play well against the Rams. They only have 17 points to the Rams at home. They just could not get any offense, or they easily could have beat the Rams in that game in Baltimore a couple weeks ago. So
yeah,
for me,
with that Rams game, why did they try a tush push with Mark Andrews? Can you explain that one?
I guess it's very similar to what Pittsburgh's been doing with Darnell Washington.
When I saw that, I'm like, what are they doing?
I think it's very similar to Philly. Like they're trying to not give Derrick Henry the whole workload the way Philly's trying to not give Saquon Barkley the whole workload. But at 1-5, you got no choice now. This is really their season. Again, I think they're going to come out. I think they're going to play well. And I think it's possible because Pittsburgh's got a rough 3 games. They got the Chargers, they go to Chicago, and obviously Green Bay this Sunday. Like, I think 8 or 9 wins could win this division, which we never thought we would say to start the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think you can entirely rule out the Bengals.
No, you certainly can. I think if they had Burrow, and I know I said this before the year, but I believe it now more than ever. If they had Burrow, I think they would be the favorites to win the division.
To go back to the Dak Prescott conversation, it feels like this version of Dak is like what Joe Burrow did last year, where he had this.
I just said that, which was my argument for Dak being MVP, and you shut it down.
Okay. Like Joe Burrow had an MVP type season.
Okay, but Dak is having an MVP type season. He's got the same setup Burrow had. 2 great receivers, a decent tight end. Dak probably has a little bit better of an offensive line, but a defense that's giving up 40 points a game.
The only reason I wouldn't put Dak in there is no fault of his own. It's just that I would put Drake May above him right now. I'd put Daniel. If I had to make a top 5, I would put him probably 5th or 6th right now.
Okay.
So I'm not saying he's completely out of it. There's just other players I would put ahead of him. I got you.
Here's one I'll ask you. If the Ravens come back and win the division, I don't think Lamar's going to get it, but I think he might get a couple votes.
I would agree. I would say it would take a collapse from Pittsburgh, but with this division, you never know. The only team you can really rule out in the AFC North is Cleveland. Although, I will say this. I look at the Browns' remaining schedule.
Oh, Josh, don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I'm not going to say they could win the division. I'm not that crazy. Trust me. I'm not stupid like that. There is a pathway for them to get to at least 6 wins.
Name them.
Okay? The Jets, the Raiders. They usually split with the Ravens and the Steelers, and they have both the Ravens
they're not winning both those games. They may beat Pittsburgh. They're not going to beat Baltimore this year.
They usually split with at least one, if not both, Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
I'll give you Tennessee. So if you're going to say Titans, Jets, Raiders, which I think Vegas on the road is going to be a tougher game. I think they could lose that game.
We did last year. We did lose that game.
The Jets, the Browns are going to be the easiest game out of the Jets' schedule. That's going to be a game the Jets think they could win.
Oh, God. That game's going to be ugly.
It was as ugly as Jets-Panthers, but tell me I'm wrong. That's the last game out on the Jets' schedule outside of the Dolphins where they say we can win.
Yeah, I would just give the Browns the edge because of the defense. But
the Browns' defense doesn't play well on the road at all.
I'd rather have the Browns' defense than the Jets' defense, I can tell you that.
I agree, but I don't know. Who's going to be the quarterback for the Jets? Is it going to be Tyrod? Is it going to be Justin Fields? Is it going to be me or you?
That's why I would say the Browns have the edge in that game. And like I said, I think we split with either Baltimore or Pittsburgh, maybe both, maybe. So there is a pathway. I don't think they're beating the Patriots this week. I don't.
Probably my favorite bet of the week, New England -7, folks.
Yes. trust me, even though the Browns beat the Dolphins and finally broke through the 20-point barrier, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they can go into New England and beat the Patriots. I think the Patriots have won 5 in a row against the Browns.
I think the last time they beat them was, 2010?
Yes. That is correct, actually.
The infamous Colt McCoy game. But we are getting off track. We got to talk about Aaron Rodgers' return against the Packers. It's going to be in Pittsburgh, so he's not returning to Lambeau. But it is his first matchup against his former team. I cannot wait for this game because I cannot wait to see if Aaron makes any sort of reaction with Jordan Love pregame or any contact with Matt LaFleur. These two teams are actually very similar to me. I think it's a matchup where Jordan Love is going to want to prove himself against Aaron Rodgers, showing what he can do. I think the Packers players will be very motivated because I think they sort of felt like Aaron Rodgers sort of left them behind, especially their young wide receivers that were still there. Aaron's last year in Green Bay, at least most of them were. It's going to be a very interesting game, and it means a lot to both teams. I'm very interested to see how both teams come out and play this because I can see Aaron either wanting to really go for the jugular and have a career night or him not really doing a lot and then running the football because that is Green Bay's weakness is their inability to stop the run.
Yeah, Dallas kind of exposed that. But then again, Dallas has a high-flying offense. Pittsburgh does not. Outside of DK Metcalf, Pittsburgh doesn't really have anybody that really scares you.
The one thing they have been doing, and this is Pittsburgh, offensively, they've been getting the ball out of Aaron's hands quick. And ever since the London game against Minnesota, with Jaylen Warren and a little combination of Gainwell, they have been able to run the football, which is something they have not been able to do in years past.
Here's the thing. And I talked about this going into when we hosted the Packers back in week 3. I think the Steelers have an advantage coming into this matchup, but not the advantage you think. Because the Steelers played on Thursday night football, so they had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all of this week to get ready for the Packers, whereas Green Bay had to play on Sunday in Arizona. No, it wasn't a late game, but still, they had to fly back from Arizona, and now they have to get ready to go back out on the road to play at Pittsburgh. For me, that's advantage Steelers.
That's a good point. It's just, here's the thing. Mike Tomlin's not very good anymore in these big games.
That part is true, yes. But still, I would say it's advantage Steelers.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very weird game. I don't really have a good feel for it because Green Bay has not played well since week 2.
No, they really haven't. But
we both thought
it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Micah Parsons gets an opportunity to sack Aaron Rodgers.
And you know it's coming because, by the way, I don't know if you've seen Micah Parsons. He is not playing a lot of snaps this year. He's been mostly playing pass rush situations, but he is getting to the quarterback. He had 3 sacks on Sunday.
Yeah. But how will the Steelers' offensive line hold up? I don't know.
Again, I think they have been doing a good job of getting the ball out quick. I suspect a lot of quick dropbacks. I think they'll run some slug and goes with DK Metcalf, but I think it's going to be a lot of slants. They use a lot of the tight end, the run game, play action. I don't think you're going to see Aaron get hit a ton. I think the key for Green Bay is going to be you have to stop the run on first down. You have to get Pittsburgh to 3rd and long and force Aaron in that offense to be in shotgun drop back pass situations.
Yeah, you got to get Pittsburgh you got to make Pittsburgh one-dimensional. That's basically what you're saying.
Well, I'm also saying you have to get Aaron also away from under center. He's been very good under center this year using the run game and the play action. You have to get him in the gun where even if they're behind, right, if you're up 10-0 early or you go up 14-0 early, get Pittsburgh out of that run game and force Aaron, like you said, it's a little one-dimensional, but it's also to keep dropping back in the gun, because Aaron at this point is not immobile. I think he prefers to be more under center where he can just take the ball and snap it as opposed to catching the ball in the gun, then having to look up at the defense.
It'll be interesting to see how Green Bay deals with TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. I think Casey Hayward is still there, right?
Casey Hayward is still there. They still have Patrick Queen. They have Jalen Ramsey. They have Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr. They have all the names that you would think to have a top 5 defense, and it has not been it. Teams have been easily able to throw on them. Not so much in the run game, obviously. TJ Watt has come through with some key sacks. Again, I think the best game they played this year was against the Browns, and that was also by far the weakest offensive line they played.
So it'll be interesting to see how the Packers deal with the Steelers' defensive line. Do they implement more play action bootlegs to get Jordan Love away from the pressure?
That will be part of it. That's Matt LaFleur's game plan, is the outside zone run with Josh Jacobs mixing with the play action. I think Tucker Kraft has had a really good year. I know they just have been able to get Freiermuth involved in Pittsburgh last week with a big touchdown. He has not had a big year receiving outside of that touchdown last week. I think this could be a tight end game.
You could be right.
Okay. So we talked about a lot of games this week coming up on the schedule, but I'm going to go first to wrap up our show, the top 5 Week 8 games of the 2025 NFL season. 2 of these games we've already talked about. Number 5, for me, it is the return of Lamar Jackson, assumingly, and the Bears thing on the Ravens, because this is a big game for both teams. Because if the Bears can go in against Lamar Jackson, who I'm going to assume at this point is healthy, and they knock off the Ravens, that is a huge momentum booster for the Bears. It is a season changer, and it instantly puts the Bears on the radar for a team that could win the NFC North. For Baltimore, obviously, they're trying to save their season. At number 4, it is a rematch of the Thursday night game from 2 weeks ago. It is the Jacksonville Giants, who are now coming to Philly. In the NFL, historically, it is really hard to beat a team 2 times in 3 weeks. The Eagles' pass rush has not been the same this year. I think that's been a big part of why the Eagles have struggled defending the pass. They did bring back Brandon Graham out of retirement, who has stayed in shape, knows the system. He's going to get snaps on Sunday. We'll see if he can band-aid sort of that defensive end position until Nolan Smith gets back. Jalen Hurts had a perfect passer rating on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. Outside of Super Bowl 59, in my opinion, that was the best game Jalen Hurts has played in his NFL career. The passing game looked like it got going. For me, as long as Cam Jurgens is healthy, can this offensive line get some continuity and get Saquon Barkley going? At number 3 will be the Thursday night game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Chargers. These are 2 teams who started off the year hot, especially the Chargers. They've dealt with a lot of injuries on the offensive line. It's going to be Carson Wentz again for the Vikings, who have struggled historically in that stadium, losing the Rams twice at SoFi. Chargers, back-to-back home games now, and they lost the home game against the Commanders a couple weeks ago. So they've not been good at home this year. Minnesota, again, tough loss against Philly. Can they bounce back, or will they fall even more behind in the NFC North? At number 2, Cowboys, Broncos. A game that I did not think would be on the list to start the season. Dak Prescott, again, I think he's playing at an MVP level. Denver's defense, they've got the names. They're getting a lot of sacks, but they're not stopping a lot of people. And Bo Nix has not played well for a lot of stretches of this season. They've had good fourth quarters that have saved them this season. They could very well be 2-4. I want to see if Denver can put together a complete game. And then number one, without a doubt, is going to be the game we just talked about. Aaron Rodgers facing his former team Sunday night. There's so many storylines that we talked about involved in this game and the strategy and the game planning. Packers, Steelers, Sunday night, 8:22 on NBC.
All right. So number 5 for me, this would be much higher on the list if Bryce Young was healthy. But because he's not, I have to put it at number 5. Because I like the way the Carolina Panthers are playing right now. They've got back-to-back wins, including a last-second win at home against the Dallas Cowboys. And I watched as much of that game as I could, and I was like, okay, Bryce Young, Carolina, they seem to be figuring it out. And then they win a sloppy, kind of low-scoring defensive type game against the Jets in New Jersey, and I'm like, okay.
That was ugly football, I'm going to tell you. That
Yes.
was one of the worst football games I've ever seen in a long time.
I agree. But for the Panthers to come off an emotional win against the Cowboys, to then go on the road and be involved in a game like that and still come out victorious, I was like, okay, that Buffalo game just became a lot more interesting.
Here's the other thing that I don't know if you were going to mention this or not, but Carolina can run the football a lot like Atlanta. And Buffalo, maybe they fixed it during their bye week. I don't know. But they can't stop the run. And so if the Panthers can ball control, even with Andy Dalton, I know the line is like 7.5 right now. I'm not so sure that's take Buffalo's side of it.
And here's the other interesting spot. Is think about where this game is on the schedule for Buffalo. Because after this game, who do they play?
You're right. They play their arch rival, and that game's in Buffalo. So this will be a 100% a trap game for even coming off their bye.
Yes. I don't gamble. I'm not a sports bettor, but if I were, I would take the Panthers. I don't trust Buffalo being favored by 7.5 at all.
I think this game will be over in 5 minutes, or it will come down to a last-second field goal. I think you will either see Buffalo completely impose their will early, or it will be a dicey finish.
If Carolina can win this game, I think, and they can get Bryce Young healthy, they could sneak their way into the playoffs.
I'm going to say this. If Carolina wins this game, there's a scenario out there that Buffalo does not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I could see it. If Carolina wins this game, I think you hand the AFC East to the New England Patriots.
Which 2 weeks ago, if you remember, going into that Week 5 game, Buffalo was undefeated. They were 4-0. New England was 2-2. If Buffalo would have won that game, the division would have been over.
Yes. Especially because at number 4, even though the Patriots are favored by 6.5, and the Browns haven't beaten them since 2010, thanks to that famous Peyton Hillis game, which got him on the cover of Madden. Colt McCoy might have been the quarterback for that game. I'm not sure. We've had so many starting quarterbacks, so forgive me. But you got the Browns coming off finally winning a game where they scored more than 17 points, because that had been the most they've scored all season. They come out, they smash a bad Dolphins team. Dylan Gabriel played an okay game. I wouldn't say he played a great game.
He didn't do anything. That's what I'll say.
Quinshon Judkins was the main part of the offense. I'm going to agree with you. But now you take that on the road to Foxborough, where everybody's now talking about the Patriots, and they are coming off of a very I would say kind of like Carolina was against Dallas. It was an emotional game for New England because Vrabel was back in Tennessee and all that, and it didn't look great for New England at first, and then they finally shut the door, but it took them a little while to put Tennessee away. So that's why I have this game on the list, because of where both teams are coming from, even though they both won. At number 3, I'm going to the Lone Star State. You got the San Francisco 49ers coming off of a pretty good Sunday Night Football win against Atlanta. I wouldn't say it was like amazing or anything, but they did what they had to do. Even though their defense is beaten up to all hell and back. And Atlanta, I don't know if it was going out to the West Coast or playing on a short week, but they just did not look right. But now you have the 49ers going on the road to play CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. Interestingly, Houston is favored by 1.5 coming into this game.
Yeah, that's a stay away game for me. I don't know, because I feel like the Texans need the win at home, but their offensive line is so bad. I know San Francisco's all beat to hell. By the way, shout out to former Eagle Bryce Huff. Didn't do anything in Philadelphia, and all of a sudden he can pass rush again in San Francisco. But the Texans are bad. And that was bad last night. They did not show up. CJ Stroud's like a one-man on an island. I don't think it's his fault. I think he's a very good quarterback, but I think the Texans have failed him as an organization.
And that's the other reason I have this game in the position I do on my top 5 is because you got Houston coming back from the West Coast, specifically the Pacific Northwest, playing on a short week at home against San Francisco. That is a tough spot. We saw how the Browns dealt with it back in 2019. Remember, they played San Francisco on Monday Night Football in San Francisco, and then they had to come home and play Seattle on a Sunday afternoon. That was back in 2019. I was at that game against Seattle. So for me, that's why it's on the list. At number 2, I've got the game you had at number 3. Or, I'm sorry, the game you have at number 1. It's the Aaron Rodgers revenge game on Sunday Night Football against his former team. What's it going to be like when Aaron Rodgers sees that elongated G across the field? How's it going to be when he says hello to Matt LaFleur? Is he going to say anything to Jordan Love? All the bells and whistles. And at number 1, they scored 33 points in the fourth quarter to beat the Giants on what was a very emotional day because they put Demaryius Thomas into the Ring of Fame. And the Super Bowl 50, many of the players from that Super Bowl 50 team were there to honor him. I very much miss Demaryius Thomas. He was one of my favorite players for the Denver Broncos. But you have the Broncos coming off of that big emotional win, now taking on the Cowboys, whose offense is absolutely flying now that George Pickens has CeeDee Lamb back in the mix. Javonte Williams is really running the ball well. This has the makings of a shootout, and I can't wait to watch it. I believe this is the game Nance and Romo are on the call for.
You are correct, and it will be available in the Cleveland area for your viewing.
Yes. Whereas Brady's game will not be, as he is calling the Giants-Eagles game.
I can't wait to listen to Tom Brady tell me that Jalen Hurts made an A+ throw with no explanation.
Yes. Whereas I have to listen to, I don't even know who's calling our game, but Browns Patriots is on Fox.
Okay, so real quick before we go, I want to make one comment about the Denver game because this was during your technical difficulties earlier in the show. Josh, I know you picked Denver, and we were both wrong on the Raiders, and I know it looks like I was wrong on the Broncos this year. I totally understand it. I think they're probably a playoff team. However,
they are a playoff team, not probably.
However, to say this, you look at the Broncos. Over the last 3 games, they have played 2 good quarters. The fourth quarter at Philadelphia and the fourth quarter Sunday. You could make a case that the last 3 games they won could have lost them all. Bo Nix has not had a good year. They have not been very good in the first half. And by the way, if Brian Dable just runs the ball on the third down play that Jackson Dart throws the interception, the Broncos use their last time out, and then they have to drive the field and use an onside kick. The Giants likely win the game. So I don't know how to feel yet about Denver. I don't think they're a very good team.
I still have them winning the division, but they still have both games left against Mr. Mahomes. But
Grandizer, real quick, wants to know. So the Browns bye is week 9. It's actually the same week as the Eagles. It's going to be very weird for me next week. But has your 2025 regular season Browns prediction changed?
I do think there is a possibility we could get to 8 wins, but it's very unlikely.
Josh, if they get to 8 wins, I will physically drive over to your house and I will raise your hand.
Before the season, I said 6-11. As of right now, I'm not changing that.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us tonight for the technical difficulties as we recap week number 7 in the NFL. Next week, we have a lot to go over. We're going to talk week 8 in the NFL. We're going to talk college football as we'll be right around. It'll be a week away from when the committee actually puts out their rankings. We're going to talk about the World Series, Shohei Ohtani's incredible Game 4 of the NLCS. We may
Please, Toronto, take down the evil empire. Please.
We may also talk a little bit of wrestling as well. There's a lot going on in the sports world that we could not get to tonight because of everything going on in the NBA. We'll talk a little bit of the NBA as well, what we've seen from the first week. So, massive show next week. Stay tuned. I believe the NFL trade deadline, is it Tuesday as well? I believe so.
I don't remember.
So, stay tuned. Stay strapped in. This has been Championship Rings. I'm Brandon with host of Brandon's World. The man with the Ungar to the Max logo is Josh Ungar, Ungar to the Max, representative of the Sports Room Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us on this special NFL Week 7 edition of Championship Rings. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks to everybody who commented down below, and peace.